So how do you both deal with or think about or even channel like extreme levels of stress, adversity, criticism, public opinion, or failure? Because both of you have had, things that just flat out didn't work, but you're public figures. And how do you handle it or deal with it or think about it?
I really let go of criticism really fast. I might, sort of process it in the moment to try and figure out is there something that I truly can learn from there valid, but I let go of it really fast. And so if I'm in a fight, a personal fight or whatever, it's like, time is so precious. Time is so precious. Failure, God, I've had a wonderful series of failures. And, I built a launch vehicle company that we won this huge contract and couldn't finance it and had to close it down. I built a multitude of companies. Luckily, a third have been great, a third have been okay, and a third have been life lessons. But I have to believe that what I'm doing in my heart of hearts is the right thing to do. And if I'm doing the very best I can, and I believe it is something, because when I take $1 from somebody as a donation or as an investment, and those of you who are in the room here who have supported me or invested in me know that. It's like, it's me. It's like you got my cell phone number and I care and I am so committed to making, to delivering. I will do everything I possibly can. So I need to know that for myself. And I can sleep at night if something fails, but I know I gave it everything I possibly could. And there are also those times where shit is hitting, it's like nosedive. And I will stop everything else I'm doing and I will go laser-like on that. 100%, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I will do everything humanly possible. And it takes that a lot of times. It absolutely takes that a lot of times. So, that's for me.
Awesome, thank you.
I would say, I love to light people up. Since I was a little kid, I love to light people up. And so early on, I want to make everybody happy all the time. And then I come in this package, I was 5'1", and then next thing I know, I'm 6'7". I grew 10 inches in a year because I had a tumor in my brain. And I didn't even know it. And I grew, so I'm big. And I'm, quiet and unassuming. I have a hard time expressing my true feelings. So it makes it difficult for people to understand what I'm really like. No, I'm fairly loud and intense. And so I realized, thank you very much. But what happened for me in the beginning is I was trying to make everybody happy all the time. And then I just began to realize not everybody wants to be happy. And gradually I began to realize opinions are a dime a dozen, but impact is all that matters to me. So when you've had the impact, and you don't need anybody else to tell you, and you don't need somebody else to acknowledge you, put stars on your chart. When you do what's right, you know it. And no one can take that from you. They can take away anything you have, but they can't take away who you become. And you become something unique when you find a way to grow and you find a way to give. And when you do that consistently, it creates an extraordinary life. So I'd lie to say that I don't want people to hate me or dislike me, but it wouldn't be accurate to say I don't care, but I don't care enough to change what I'm doing. What I'm doing is valuable. And I think that as far as failure is concerned, oh my God, there's so many failures, but I just don't hold it that way. And it's not a technique or being positive, it's just being intelligent. Failure is education if you use it. If you learn something, it's not a failure. If you don't learn anything, then it's failure. But if you learn something, how many of you in this room have had something happen in your life that was horrific? You hated it. You'd never want to go through it again. You never want somebody you care about to go through it. But looking back on it 5, 10 years later, you say, I'm so glad I went through that because it made me so much stronger or so much smarter or made me care so much more. Who can relate? I'm curious, right? So if that's true, then why not adopt the philosophy that life is not happening to me, it's happening for me. And that everything's happening for me, even what I thought was failure. And now my job is to figure out where's the benefit and use it for greater good. So I could probably list unlimited failures, but I would be insincere because I don't really look at them as failure. And that's not because I'm positive, it's just because I work my ass off to figure out what can I learn from that? How can I use that? And I'd like to make people happy. But I've also learned in business, like I fire customers, man. I was like, if I find someone that's an asshole, I don't need them. It's a privilege to do business with us because we will more than deliver times 10. And so I teach my team, and it's so rare we have to do it anymore. But you fire a customer and you say, listen, we're not going to be able to meet your needs clearly because are there people out there that no matter what you do, they're going to be unhappy, yes or no? But why are you doing business with them and taking the life energy of your organization from it? I get rid of them so fast and then they always want back in. And I never let them back. Never. And then when they become a public hanging and other people go, well, this is how you play here. Because in the world of the internet, we've lost any form of kindness. People say things that are the most harsh, horrific things. I'm not talking about to me. I remember reading one time, we were in Las Vegas and my wife liked, what's the woman who's a singer there? She was there for so long. What the heck's her name?
Celine Dion.
Celine Dion, thank you. And so my wife went online and she was looking at one of her videos, and underneath it, it's like, you bitch, you lost that child because you put your career first. I mean, the stuff people write, and all it is people who feel insignificant, who would never have the guts to say something to your face, but we've created an environment where it's tolerated. And so I think reversing that is really important. You have to define your environment, your business, your world, your family, because we all get what we tolerate. I won't tolerate it. I'll give my soul to a stranger, but I won't tolerate somebody being abusive to any member of my team or to people in my audience or to me, certainly not to my family. And you get what you tolerate, you gotta decide. And you also get what you tolerate in yourself. And I think if you can look at what you're tolerating yourself and say, I'm not gonna tolerate that anymore in myself, then it's easier to lead other people. If you're just telling other people you won't tolerate, they'll look at you and go, yeah, you don't tolerate, but look how you are. You don't have to be perfect, but people see how, you don't have to know who I am. You don't have to watch my lips move. You can see how my feet have moved for 38 years. That's Tony Robbins, right? That's probably the best signature you can give. That's the brand that you put out there. It's the way you live.
The thing you said, the line, which I love, life is not happening to me, it's happening for me. Is that like, is part of that a trick you play on yourself, or do you truly believe everything you are able to take that as ingredients of this is all happening for me, the shittiest, most horrible, most horrendous thing, from diseases to suffering? I mean, that's an important line, and I like to.
It's not just a line. There's a woman that I just saw that I'd met 15 years ago, and she just showed up at my seminar, and she was suicidal because one of her daughters had gotten sick, and she brought her to the hospital, and the doctor said she's fine. She brought her home, and the child died, and she was going to kill herself, and she had 3 other kids. So I really truly had to work with her. And I remember working with her back then. I looked it up because we have all stuff I've ever done on film. And I asked her, I said, what are your spiritual beliefs? And she said, I believe everything happens for a reason, and all that stuff. I said, so you're going to abandon what you believe spiritually because life didn't turn out the way you want right now? She said, no. I said, if it's the truth, it'll be the truth when it's painful. It'll be the truth when it's pleasurable. So I would lie to you to say, I jump up and go, this is happening for me right now, bitch. I don't do that. I think, what the hell's happening? Why? And then I catch myself and I go, there's some good in this. And my real core belief underneath that is, everything I've ever been able to help people with is because I faced some portion of it. If I have to face a divorce, I decided I needed to go through a divorce, and I didn't want to. No one takes you to pick your partner after 14 years. It was the most horrific thing in the world, but I thought, if I can figure out how to do this elegantly, intelligently, lovingly, no matter what the other party's like, then I can help anybody else. If I've had several businesses over the decades that were, near the verge of bankruptcy. I had a resort in Fiji, and there was a coup. It's kind of inconvenient, and I'm losing $1 million a month, and it's like, and I didn't have $1 million a month to be losing at that time, just I wanted to create this great place for people. But it's like, in the midst of all those elements, I'd come back and say, if I can figure this out, I can help any other business. So almost all my skills have come because of something I had to solve in me or help someone else solve. And my view is, if I can figure it out for me, I can help millions of people. And so that makes the problem inspiring, as opposed to the problem being, why did it happen to me? Because we're all going to experience problems. The only thing that we all have in common is everyone here is going to experience severe pain. I don't care how rich you are, money is not going to create immunity to pain. Suffering, you can get immunity from the decision I told you about. But we're all going to have problems. We're all going to have challenges. The only difference is, what the hell are you going to do with them? And if we just deal with our own problems, they get really boring, and some people need problems to have drama in their life to cover the fact they're not doing anything. But I think it's much more interesting to solve it and move on and help other people do the same, because you've actually done it, not because you talk about it.
Yeah, gotcha. What I love is Robin Sharma, who we did a call with. He's in the room. He has this thing, the 5 a.m. Club. A guy named Hal Elrod wrote a book of Miracle Morning. You do priming in the morning. I'd love to hear what you guys feel are your best rituals, or what it is that you are doing that just massively impacts you to be as effective as both of you are. If there's something simple or something that you just do that makes your life work, starting to be it a morning ritual or just anything that people here could
Does
do.
watching cartoons with my kids at 7 a.m. count?
No, that may be accurate.
I mean, it's for me, it's anchored in my desiring to make the impossible stuff I set out happen. Right? It's anchored in this infinity challenge. I'm never bored. These problems I've taken on with an amazing group of people are all sort of infinite, and there's no getting there. So for me, they're my guiding stars. So it's like, okay, what am I going to do right now to move the game forward this day? I wish I could say I was a great meditator or yoga person or so forth, and that will come, but not right now. For me, it's just it's dedication to the child inside me and what I care deeply about, which is making these succeed. And ultimately, it's trying to be clear about what I'm enjoying doing. Right? It's surfing the stuff I love versus this is work. I'm probably not good at this work. Who else can I find that can do it? And doing the stuff that I truly love better, and doing more of that. I mean, there's nothing sophisticated there. Tony, what do you got?
Well, I think anyone who succeeds has something that they aspire to. There's a mission, there's a direction, there's a desire, and they bring it up regularly. And you do that, even though you say you don't do it in a sophisticated way. Attacking the human genome and figuring out how to get meteors to feed you what you need is a fairly large vision, somewhat sophisticated. Mine's really simple. Mine's simple is I believe that the body is the place that drives the mind the fastest. You can go inside your head all day long trying to resolve things and make excuses or freak out. But I learned early on in my life that in order to make myself do things, I had to trigger this body to feel strength and to know that when I say something, I mean it. And so I have a simple ritual that's actually enjoyable. It may not sound enjoyable, but it is now, which is I get up every morning, and I'm privileged to have multiple homes. So if I'm in those homes, one of the homes I have a river, the rest of them I have cold plunges. And I go into a 56-degree temperature just for about 60 seconds. I jump straight in, or I was just in Sun Valley, the river's 38 degrees, a little bit cooler. And I took my nephew and said, "You're about to learn how to start your day."
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video, and I want to let you know that I have a new book that's come out, and if you'd like to get it absolutely free, there's a link below in the description, or you can wait till the end of this video, or you can simply go to joesfreebook.com and you can get a copy there.
And I bring all my friends when they come. They all have to do this. They're like, holy shit, I know when I go see Tony, he's got something for me to do of this nature. But every cell, every nerve in your body explodes, and it's phenomenal for your lymph system, phenomenal for your health. But it also is just a simple discipline that says, I say it, it happens. I'm going to say I'm going to do this, I do it. And I've done it so much, it's there, and it's invigorating. And then I do, as you said, something I call priming. I don't, you wake up and you're, 22 hours off your normal time zone, and you've got to get up and take care of 10,000 people for 3 days and nights for 14 to 15 hours. You don't always wake up feeling, wow, is this the coolest thing in the world? Somebody wake up and go, what universe is my body in, And so I do my physical ritual, but then I also do this priming. And priming for me is just, I don't hope that I'm going to show up at my best. I create a state for it. Most of you know probably the principle of priming. They've proven it in so many scientific studies. We all think we make our decisions consciously, when much of our decision making that we think is conscious is being made by contextual environmental manipulation that we're not even thinking about. On one study, they took some people and they hired actors that would go to 100 people, and they'd walk up to you, and they were trained to do the exact same look, same expression, and they'd say, would you hold this? They hand you a coffee cup, and they reach in their pocket and grab their phone, put them back, say, thank you very much. They just kind of assume the action, and they would do it the same way, same facial expression, 100 people one way, 100 people other. And what was the only difference? Cold iced coffee versus hot coffee. An hour later, they come back with some people, different people, who've got little caps on. They're saying, listen, we'll give you $10 if you'll give us 2 minutes if you'd read this 3-paragraph story and give us 2 question answers. And they read this little story, everyone reads the same story, and at the end they ask them, how would you describe the main character? What are they like as a person? 80% of the people that got warm coffee said they're warm, they're generous, they're loving, but warm is always one of the language patterns. 80% like clockwork, if people got the iced coffee, same story, say that they're very cold, that they use language like being obsessed or being about themselves, selfish, things of this nature. I give you dozens of examples. So what I do each morning is I do a breathing pattern. It's an explosive breathing pattern I learned in India, breathing your breath in and exploding it out, from the gut out the nose. And I do that 3 sets of 10, pause, 3 sets of 10, pause, 3 sets of 10. So it alters my state. And then I just do 3 things for 10 minutes because I have this deal with myself. If you don't have 10 minutes for yourself, you don't have a life. Who's with me on this? So I said, you know what? I don't need to have 20-minute, 30-minute, 40-minute meditations. I want 10 minutes, and I don't know. I need to meditate. I don't know if I'm going to meditate. To not think. I don't know too many people can do that, and I don't even know that I want to not freaking think. So I thought, what I want to do is I want to focus on the emotions that will cause me to be the better me. And the 2 emotions that most people are messed up by are anger and fear. And when you're grateful, you can't be angry. Try to be grateful and angry simultaneously. It'll never work. And you can't be fearful when you're grateful. So when I look at people, almost always they're reacting out of fear or they're reacting out of anger. It's some version of those 2. So gratitude to me is the antidote. So I spend 3 minutes, just 3 minutes, and I think of 3 things I'm grateful for, 3 people, 3 situations, but I step into it. I don't remember the roller coaster over there riding it. I put myself in the front seat going over the edge so I feel the moment. And I make sure one of the 3 things I'm grateful for is something really simple, like the wind on my face, or something beautiful like my child's smile. And the reason I do that is because I remember, interviewing some of the astronauts, Buzz Aldrin and these guys, and most of you probably know, you can imagine, to be an astronaut, this man knows, to aspire to do that, and then to go through the thousands of people and be picked, and then to actually go to the moon and stand on the moon and look back and see that picture we've all seen, that blue-green Earth. You imagine, and then you come home and what happens? There's a ticker tape parade and you shake the president's hand. And now what the hell do you do? You're 32. What the hell do you do for the rest of your life? And you know what? If you know the story of many of these astronauts, most of them had some major emotional challenges, right? Some abused alcohol, some drugs. And they had a real rough time because they forgot to find adventure in a smile. They thought the only way to do is go to the moon. So I train myself to make sure not just the big, beautiful things that are part of my life, but the little things. And so I feel that for 3 minutes. Then I do 3 minutes of a blessing, corny as it may sound. I imagine life, God, energy coming into my body, healing every muscle, every nerve in my body, strengthening everything as you strengthening the best of me, my passion, my love, my generosity, my creativity, my humor, my love. And then I see any problem that needs to be solved just being solved, because otherwise I tend to think I got to do it all. And then once I feel that fully, and that energy comes through me and back through me multiple times, then I do a circle of my intimate family, my kids, my wife, my friends. This little character over here is one of my list. And I just circle out all the way out to my clients. And I send that same energy to them. And I imagine, as corny as it sounds, they're being healed. They're getting what they need energy-wise. They're having the life that they deserve and seeing it multiply. So I do that for 3 minutes. And the last 3 minutes are my 3 to thrive. I think of 3 specific outcomes that matter to me. And I don't think about achieving them. I see, feel, and experience them as done, and I see the impact that it has. I see people's lives touched. I see the joy. I feel it as done, and I feel grateful. And it's 10 minutes, but honestly, it usually goes 15 or 20 because I'm having a damn good time. But by having a 10-minute walk, there's no excuse not to do it. And I do it every day, and I don't hope I'm going to feel good. And then what happens is, you're primed. You see things through a different set of filters. You make decisions through different filters. And also think of it, most people are wired for stress. They're wired for frustration. They're wired for feeling lonely. And they got a highway to pissed off, and they've got dirt roads to happiness. So I decided I'm going to wire myself for happiness. I wasn't born that way. My view is I have to change the whole earth to be happy. Today, that's different for me. Now I can just wake up and be happy because I've wired myself in a different way, neurologically. And then I show other people how to do this as well.
I think an entrepreneur is someone who has a vision of the way the future should be and then actually takes action to make it happen. It's an entrepreneur, someone with a passion and a desire to provide something to people that they want themselves, and then go and they make it happen. when I think back to my childhood, what started me on the path that I'm on was really getting my first passion, which was spaceflight. I was born during the Apollo era. Star Trek was coming out, and it ignited my imagination, what was possible. And I became absolutely passionate. I was a man on a mission to open the space frontier. And when I talk to kids now, I say, listen, the most important thing you have to do, more than anything else, is find that thing that you're passionate about, that you will do day or night, whether someone pays you or not. Because if you have that, you have gold. So when I found my passion for opening up space and then later on attacking grand challenges, incentive competitions, exponential technologies, it fuels me, it lights my fire, and it gives me sort of a guiding star to aim at when things don't go well or when things get foggy. I can look and say, that's where I'm going, and it focuses me. 2 years ago, I started on a new journey, which is a project I call Bold. And it is, if abundance was where we're going in the next 20 to 30 years, Bold is the blueprint, the tools on how to get there. It's the notion that today, all of us can do what only governments and large corporations used to be able to do. You have the tools in your tool chest to literally take on the world's biggest problems and really take on billion-dollar ambitions. Doing anything big and bold in the world is difficult. It's tough. Sometimes you're lucky, but most of the times it's hard work. And to drive something different, not incremental, but a transformational change means taking risk. Because the day before something is truly a breakthrough, it's a crazy idea. And if you are trying crazy ideas, a good number of them are going to fail. So ultimately, you have to be ready to embrace risk. Risk to your fortune, risk to your time, risk to reputation, if you want to do big and bold things in the world. So the year is 1996. Kodak has a $28 billion market cap. It's 140,000 employees. It's 104 years old at this date. And it was in 1976, 20 years earlier, that Kodak invented the digital camera that ultimately puts them out of business. And what happened was the engineer who invented the digital camera explained to his folks what this was going to do, what the potential was. But this first digital camera was only 0.01 megapixels. 0.01 megapixels. And the CEO and the heads of the business looked at this guy, it's a toy for kids. What do you mean? And we're in the chemicals and paper business, not this digital camera stuff. And so they ignored it. They ignored this. And unfortunately, last year in 2012, Kodak goes bankrupt. What's interesting, though, in that same year, another company, also in the digital imagery business, called Instagram, gets acquired by Facebook for $1 billion, but with 13 employees. I call this process of going from a linear company being displaced by an exponential one, the new Kodak moment. I think success ultimately are simple things. It's going to be being a great dad. It is knowing that I am full out, that I'm doing everything I possibly can. It's knowing I have a purpose in life and that I am making a headroad towards that purpose. And I do know from my heart of hearts that it is the journey and not the destination.
The first is, in fact, the X Prize, a $10 million contest that we are organizing here. And this $10 million award will be going to the winner, which is the first team to do the following.
I remember that moment in time when the Ansari X Prize was won. October 4th of 2004, I'd been working on the X Prize for a decade. Spaceship One had just made its second flight to 100 kilometers. It had landed. The prize was over. It had been won. Against all the odds, this had been successfully done. And I remember taking a moment to say, how do I feel? How do I feel? How do I feel? This 10-year journey is over. What am I feeling in my heart and my soul? And I had the strangest experience. My experience was looking around me and realizing that while I had just journeyed up to the top of this mountain, all I saw around me were higher mountains. And it was the notion that there will always be more and more and more and more things you can do in life. And so don't ever think you're reaching a destination. You know, it is the journey and the experience and the people you go through life with that matter the most.
Imagine you're sitting in a doctor's office and your spouse or loved one is told, I'm sorry, you have terminal cancer and you have less than 6 months to live. What would you do? Would you panic or would you have peace? I'm going to teach you 5 keys today to clarify your mental mindset and how to deal with adversity when it hits. Let me share my screen with you. This is my husband, Bob, and Bob and I have been married for 30 wonderful years. On January 5th of 2021, he was diagnosed with stage 4 bone cancer, and his doctor told him that he has 6 months to live. At the time that the doctor was delivering that news to him, he looked right at me and said, go home and get your affairs in order. And I thought to myself, so what, now what? You see, so what is the beginning of the process. Now what is the action that you take? We all know the amazing Jennifer Carroll, who's taken a year off from Genius. But Jennifer's mantra was bend over and take it like a man. Unlike Jennifer's husband, my husband was diagnosed with prostate cancer 2 times previously, and he beat it both times. But this time it's come back as single cell carcinoma, which is a fast and aggressive bone cancer, and it's terminal. When the news was delivered to me about my husband's health and what was coming ahead of us, I decided that instead of being in a state of adversity, I wanted to thrive. We all know our beloved leader, Joe Polish, decided to take a sabbatical because his friend, Mark, passed away. Mark had everything. He was active, he was healthy, he was 59 years old, and he was rich. He was worth $300 million, but he died instantly. As a high achiever, how often do you put your clients' needs ahead of your own? How often do you put off things like going to the doctor, getting into shape, updating your will, or getting your financial affairs in order? In 2015, I had a client whose husband passed away, and he had always managed their money and their real estate portfolio. Right after he passed away, their property manager embezzled $30,000 and skipped town. A few months later, my client was sued for over $900,000 for a mistake that this property manager had created. After watching all the pain and agony that my client was going through, I decided to write a book called They're Gone. And it's a survivor's guide to help women deal with their financial affairs and their real estate portfolio when their spouse or loved one passes away. When writing this book, I decided that I wanted to make sure my own financial affairs were in order. So my husband and I updated our wills, and we created a plan to free and clear our house, and we put all of our assets into a family trust. I had no idea at the time how later that would give me the financial strength that I needed. I'm going to teach you the 5 keys that you need to know in order to survive adversity.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video, and I want to let you know that I have a new book that's come out, and if you'd like to get it absolutely free, there's a link below in the description, or you can wait till the end of this video, or you can simply go to joesfreebook.com and you can get a copy there.
The first one is planning for today will give you strength for tomorrow. In 2018, while training for a 4-day backpacking trip through the Arizonan desert, I developed a pain in my chest that took my breath away. I knew I had a benign lump, so when I returned from the trip, I went to a surgeon and I asked her to remove it. She called me several days later and indicated that it had morphed into stage 3 breast cancer, and she was referring me to an oncologist. When I met with the oncologist, he told me that we had to be fast and aggressive to beat the cancer. And within days, I had a chemo port inserted into my chest and I started chemotherapy. Within a blink of an eye, I went from being a healthy, successful commercial real estate broker to fighting for my life. I had 4 rounds of chemotherapy. I lost all my hair. I lost all of my energy, and my oncologist told me to stay home from work to protect my immunity. After my last round of chemo, the surgeon called me and indicated that she had taken my case to the tumor board and that they were recommending a double mastectomy in order to ensure that the breast cancer did not come back. You know, I could have been disappointed and depressed. I had just survived 6 months of chemotherapy and I was exhausted. It was a grueling experience, but for me, it was just a small bump in the road. When my surgeon told me that I needed to have a double mastectomy, my next question was, so what, now what? And my now what was, what day do I show up for surgery? How quick can I recover? And how quick can I go back to the life that I crave? I also experienced total financial peace during that process because of the prior planning that I had completed with my husband. I was able to take the 12 months off of work and recover and take care of my health. So ask yourself, are you prepared for adversity? When my husband's diagnosis of cancer was shared with me, I knew I had all of the pieces of the puzzle put together, but taking care of a sick loved one is exhausting. My life changed overnight. In the last 30 days, my husband's health has changed drastically. He's had to be rushed to the hospital 3 times in an ambulance. He's had 10 blood transfusions in over 12 days. His first round of chemotherapy pushed his blood sugars above 800, which is in a stroke level. He developed a blood infection, which he was hospitalized for over a week. I actually broke into the hospital and stayed in his room for 5 days to guarantee he was coming home. When my husband and I were married 30 years ago, we purchased long-term healthcare plans. His premium is $3,000 a year. And for that, he now receives over 60 hours a week of skilled in-home healthcare. If I had to pay for that out of pocket, that would cost me $11,180 on a monthly benefit. So save yourself some heartache and reach out to a smart financial advisor like Jim Do, who can help you plan ahead for long-term healthcare and plan for future adversity. Key number 2 is develop unbreakable grit. I love the Navy SEALs. They are trained to rewire their brain to not freak out in a time of fear. The average Navy SEAL trains 1 year before they even become a Navy SEAL, and most drop out because the training is too tough. Even after they become a Navy SEAL, they train every single day. In my morning training ritual, I get up every morning for the first hour and I watch Ben Hardy and Evan Carmichael YouTube videos. My goal is to arm myself with positive thoughts so that I can fight off adversity during the day. Ben talks about training for your future self. What do you put into your mind every day? Are you training for your future self? Key number 3 is be grateful even in the midst of darkness. The day my surgeon put the chemo port into my chest, I sent her roses because I was so grateful for the opportunity that she was giving me. She was giving me a second chance at life. The amazing author B.J. Fogg, in his book, Tiny Habits, mentioned that every time he changed his mother's bandage, instead of complaining about Kaiser Permanente, he would remind himself and his mother of his fond childhood memories. The day my husband and I came home from his appointment, I made a 2-page list front to back of all the fun things that my husband and I have done, and I remind him of that every single day. Key number 4 is build your tribe of warriors. When I was going through chemotherapy, I read Sage Levine's book, Women Rocking Business. Sage is a brand new Genius Network member and amazing at empowering women. Her book teaches you how to create a thriving life and do the work that you love. I highly recommend her book to everyone in Genius. Sage's book was inspiring and helped me realize that I hadn't even scratched the surface for my life. I started mentoring other female real estate brokers that wanted to get into commercial real estate. And today those brokers are now helping me with my business while I take care of my husband's health needs. Key number 5 is be forward thinking and dream big. When I was going through treatment, I was always forward thinking and dreaming of my next big adventure. Within 12 months of returning to work, I closed the 2 biggest deals of my career. And I went on a 5-day backpacking trip through Yellowstone with a 45-pound backpack on my back. The Genius Network is a room full of doers. There's someone in this group right now that can help open a door or solve a problem for you. So here's what you need to do. Make a plan, take your first action, and reach out to that Genius member before this event ends. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Make that decision right now to deal with what you've been putting off. And remember, so what is just the beginning of the process. Now what is the action that you take? So go out, take action, and make it a great day.
I've really crafted some questions here to really get into some good stuff. So you're the discipline and productivity guy, but surprisingly, before you even start scheduling your day, you say there are much more important things to think about. So tell us about the 3 V's every entrepreneur needs to know before moving on with their day.
Yeah, absolutely. So you need to start with your values first. So imagine like you have a time pyramid. And so at the top is where you would have actually what you're going to do in the day. But at the bottom, you're going to put in your values, because your values are going to drive every single thing that you do. If your values are family first, it's going to drive how you start your day, what you do over the course of the day, how much you work. So you had that example yesterday, Joe, of the guy who was thinking about opening his 57th hardware store,
right,
and he was overweight and not spending any time with his family. Listen, you can make him super productive at opening hardware stores, but it's the wrong thing. And a lot of people in entrepreneurship become super productive at the wrong thing. And so I ask one question of all the coaching clients that I work with, which is, in the next 20 years, what do you want to accomplish in the 4 top values in your life? Your family, your health, your wealth, and experiences. That's where everything has to start. So once you know that I want to raise great kids, okay, good. That means no 13-hour days for you. It's very simple to start planning your day that way. So it's values first on the bottom of the foundation of the pyramid. That's the strongest rock that you start with. Then on top of that is something that Dean was talking about yesterday, which is your vision. That's where you get to next. Values drive your vision. And then you have to know your value of your time. So if you take a look at all the people in here, like an income level at the bottom line would be $500,000 a year probably. So that means every single hour of your working day is worth $250. Now, who here is willing to admit that they're still doing stuff like running errands, going to the UPS store, cutting the lawn, making meals, all this stuff, even writing a book? And I know that a lot of female entrepreneurs, you are guilted into it by mother-in-law or by mother, right? You are still making all the meals, you're still doing all the cooking, and it's killing you because you're trying to run this business at the same time. Now, I remember back in 2009 watching an Eben Pagan video, and Eben said in the video, entrepreneurs can't be doing their laundry. And when I first saw that, I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm doing my laundry. I'm wasting all this time all this stuff is below my value. So if your value is $250 or more per hour, that's a lot of money you can put into having people do everything for you. And that's the mindset you have to have as you go and schedule in your day. Even if you want to write a book, think about writing a book. How long is it going to take you if you're not a writer? But you have a great book in you, right? It's going to take you over 100 hours. Now, if your time is worth $250 and it's going to take you more than 100 hours to write a book, just pay Tucker $25,000 and get the book done so much faster. That's who I've used for both of my books, and it saves me a ton of time. So you have to have that type of thinking. Starts with your vision, or your values, your vision, and the value that you put on yourself, and it's going to make you a whole bunch of time to then focus on what matters. So what Tony said yesterday, the one problem in his life is time. I bet you if I spend a full day with Tony, I could save him or make him 30 minutes of time. And if the guy's running $6 billion worth of revenue in companies, that's going to be worth a lot to him. I can do that for him.
What we should do, I'll take the video of this and I'll take that clip and send it to Tony.
Good.
And see if he does that.
Yeah, and I mean, this guy's done all of that stuff better than anybody. Oh,
Well, yeah, so that's my next question. So Bedros, you and Craig, you guys have been working together for about a decade, I think.
Yeah, about a decade.
And you've created a whole winning system by watching pretty much what this guy does, because he's very much that guy. And by the way, let me mention this because I didn't do this. I've gone through Craig's whole process, spent a day and a half with him. Amazing, and really just such a great thinker. So tell us how having clarity of path and becoming a disciplined entrepreneur allowed you to, go from anxiety attacks and tremors, which you were having, to a $25 million business, I think it is approximately.
Yeah.
And one of the fastest growing fitness franchises on the planet.
Well, I've had the good fortune of, before he ever wrote the book, The Perfect Day Formula, and before he ever had the Perfect Life workshops that I've gone through as well, I've had the good fortune of having environmental exposure to this guy. And if you haven't had a chance to have environmental exposure to Craig, it's a unique experience. His gift is outside eyes. And so at first I would laugh, like, why is it that you want to have dinner at 5:30? That's kind of like a late lunch for me, right? Why aren't we partying? Because we run masterminds together, Miami, San Diego, Las Vegas, Tennessee. We're having good time. We're in great cities, man. Let's like party till midnight. What do you mean you're going to bed by 9 o'clock? What gives? But I soon started realizing that as I was laughing, I was having anxiety attacks when I'd go home and essential tremors. I would just lock up and freeze, and my wife would just like look at me like, what's going on? And I very quickly realized that his life structure is what I need if I plan on taking this franchise that was just puttering along and really making it reach its fullest potential. And I'm far from that. Our goal is 2,500 locations by the year 2020. We've got 614 locations as of yesterday that are actually open and more in development. But the life structure and discipline that I've been able to witness from him, never mind reading the book and experiencing it firsthand from the workshop, has been a game changer for me. And for most leaders, most of us in here, and I know you've experienced this, where you feel like you're overwhelmed with opportunity. You truly have more opportunities than you have time left on the calendar. That's the reality of it. You try and put so many irons in the fire, and that's what I was doing. And at the end of the day, I realized, what is my biggest purpose on this planet? I'm still a personal trainer. It's just now I'm going to touch millions of lives through our Fit Body Bootcamp franchise, and I'll touch lives of people who'll never know me, but I'll be a bigger trainer than Tony Little and Jillian Michaels through our franchise. So why am I striking up a deal with this guy? Why am I doing another event here when my purpose is to be the world's biggest trainer, making an impact in people's health, fitness, lifestyle, self-esteem, self-image? And so I went narrow and deep on my focus of Fit Body Bootcamp, and it went from failing in 2012, 13, and anxiety attacks, and I was in a very dark, negative place, taking Vicodin and NyQuil every night to go to sleep, to now a $25 million company and growing, where I have 2 VPs running the organization and a leadership team, and then, of course, implementers who execute our vision. And that's really, if you're in this room, you're a visionary. You just come up with the vision and the path, and you execute to your high-performance team.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video, and I want to let you know that I have a new book that's come out, and if you'd like to get it absolutely free, there's a link below in the description, or you can wait till the end of this video, or you can simply go to joesfreebook.com and you can get a copy there.
Okay, so from what I'm getting from you, you're in this place, you then learn how to structure, and so that pretty much is designing your day. So how does one go about doing that and starting that?
Okay, so I speak to a lot of fitness gym owners and stuff like that. And so I use this phrase, the champion mindset, in that all these fitness gym owners, at one point in their life, they've either been a champion athlete in college, or they've been a bodybuilder or something like that. And so they're very successful in one area of their life, but then they struggle with sales, or they struggle with their time management. And I say to them, listen, you've already been really, really, really successful here. You've put the systems in place. And so all you have to do is transfer that champion mindset over to this other area in life where you're struggling. So that is just thinking like, okay, well, it's planning and preparation. It was having a coach. It was having a deadline. It was getting the accountability. It was having all those things. And so whatever it is that you guys are good at, wherever you have had great success in life, you just have to transfer that over to having the systems in your own in your own productivity. So can I tell you a very embarrassing story about how I almost fought Sean Stevenson?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that was
So-
wonderful.
So I hired Sean. I hired Sean for his breakthrough day earlier this year, and it's a heck of a day. And I was going to him because I have all the productivity and stuff in place, but I wasn't getting into deep emotional relationships. And so Sean was helping me through that, and he showed me by the end of the day of our 12 hours together that I had basically built myself a system to stop myself from getting into deep emotional relationships with women. So I was building myself a prison essentially. And Sean pointed that out to me, and I was very angry at Sean for pointing it out to me because I didn't like to be shown that I'm not perfect. And so, right.
Sean sent money up front if you could.
Money up front. I love that.
So Sean was actually, were you terrified? Were you worried?
Maybe we could grab him a mic.
Sean was concerned because we were
Thanks,
both
Matthew.
standing there and staring at this whiteboard where he had pointed out that I had built this prison for myself. And so it sucked. I didn't want to admit it.
There was shame. Like, it was like, how the hell did I create this very problem that I claim that I don't want? And that's the hardest part about it.
Yeah, and so he pointed out to me that I built this system that put me in a bad place. And then I realized, hey, I can just go and dismantle that system and build a new system that allows me to have what I want. And I've since done that, and thank you, Sean, for pointing that out. But it just goes to show you that if you've built a system, like there's a lot of great marketers in here who might struggle with family relationships or their health, and you've built a great marketing system. You can go and do the same thing for your time management, for your health, for your family relationships. It's all just about building systems that work for you. And the 5 things that I've used to build systems for anything that can change your life in any way is having better planning and preparation than ever before, having professional accountability, which is going to give you expert advice and someone to hold you accountable and not let you get away with anything. Third is positive social support. So that's being in a room like this. You know, you might not get breakthrough ideas from everybody in here, but they're going to pick you up when you're feeling down. Fourth is having a meaningful incentive. So we're not doing things for money or stuff. It's what matters in life is people and experiences. So a meaningful incentive has to come from your heart, not from your wallet. And then finally, the big deadline. There has to be a deadline in the behavioral change that you want to make. And if you have those 5 things in place, you can do anything in life. You can lose weight, you can get rich, you can find the love of your life, the home of your dreams, whatever you want, if you use those 5 things. So just put them in place, build the systems you want for your time, for your family, for your making $1 million.
So when you focused on this thing, I mean, I guess the way is that's the big picture thing for you that you needed to build things around.
Absolutely.
So like how do you structure your day? Like what does your day look like and how can people in this room structure their day?
Well, the most important thing is that you get up. It doesn't matter what time you get up. So I get up early in the morning, but you don't have to get up really early in the morning. What you need to do first thing in the morning when you get up is focus on your number 1 priority in life for 15 minutes. And the reason why I say that is because most people don't spend 15 minutes a day without electronics thinking about their number 1 priority in life. It could be an opportunity to take advantage of, or it could be a problem that you're going through. If you give yourself 15 minutes a day, 6 days a week, for 52 weeks in a year, that's 72 hours of clear, uninterrupted thinking. And you can write a book in that time, you can do anything you want. But most people don't do it. And most people, does anybody in here get stressed out before 8 o'clock because their morning routine has too much crap in it? You know, you have to do meditation, you have to do gratitude journaling, you have to do freeform journaling, you have to do exercise, you have to do yoga with JP, and you have to do interpretive dance. Like, you have to do all of that before 7 in the morning, according to like these articles that you see on the internet. And most people are getting stressed out. So don't do any of that stuff. Instead, just sit there and think, go down to your kitchen table, think on your number 1 priority for 15 minutes, and then the rest of your day, it can go any which way you want, but you've already had that victory. That's the most important thing. If I can just give you one piece of advice, That's it.
That wasn't bad. That was not bad.
Can I share something where that's concerned too? And it's really made a big change in my life. I'm sure it'll make a big change in yours. Is every single person's morning routine needs to start the night before. And again, this is through environmental exposure through Craig. I've learned more by watching this guy than ever by asking him questions. Because sometimes when you're the problem, you don't know what questions to ask to get out of the problem. But when you watch, you learn. And even in the evenings now, as soon as I get home, after the first hour of being home, I just turn my phone on silent and airplane mode, and I leave it alone. Anything that happens work-wise, I'm not going to be able to solve it 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the evening, number one. Number two, I don't want to feel guilt the next day when I'm working that I didn't spend actual valuable time connecting with my wife and kids, because we're all sucking off the screen there. I don't screen suck anymore. I mean, imagine how many people fall asleep in this very room screen sucking the very last thing you did before you fell asleep, and now that's really impacting your subconscious mind. Instead, I'll still open up my notes, because remember, it's in airplane mode, so there's no notifications popping up, and I've turned off all notifications, but there's no text messages popping up. Open up my phone and write down my 5 things I'm going to attack the next morning. And so I do that brain dump the night before. I'm not screen sucking and reading bad news, bad emails. The problem's still going to be there tomorrow morning when I can actually do something about it with my VPs and my team leads, et cetera. In the evening time, I'm not going to stress about it. And so if you just focus on actually setting yourself up to win the night before by eliminating screens, by not hitting the snooze button in the morning, because I'm convinced, and someone needs to do a study on this, that if you hit the snooze button first thing in the morning, you really are telling your subconscious mind that I'll take 10 more minutes of interrupted sleep over getting out and dominating my purpose in life. And I believe over time, that stacks up against you, like a stack of dominoes where you hit the I'm a loser domino and off it goes, right? Every morning, it's like we have 2 stacks of dominoes to hit. If you hit the snooze button, you're hitting the I'm a loser stack. But that's been a big thing for me, man, preparing the night before for the next morning. And we all know when you win your mornings, you win your days, they add up into a massive amount of success in your life, whether it's family, health, happiness. Like when people tell me, gee, Bedros, I just have a few more pounds to lose. It's like, fuck, man, we're all millionaires in here, right? We're all doing well. You can't hire a nutrition expert. You can't hire a personal trainer. Then it's like, well, I can, but I don't have the time. How do you not have the time? And I later found out they're not working in their 5%. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about your 5%, at least in the Genius Network groups that I've been in. One time, this was, I don't know, almost 11, 12 years ago, I was working out of my home. We didn't have an office then. My wife calls upstairs to the guest house and she goes, hey, dude, sprinkler has a leak. It's like a fountain in our backyard. I said, oh, I'll be down and fix it. And so I went down to fix it, and I'm pretty handy with that stuff, but I got mud all over my arms. And the only employee I had was one assistant. Her name was Amanda at the time. Comes down and she goes, hey, people are responding to the email you just sent out. They actually want to get on the phone with you and see if the coaching is right. I said, oh man, Amanda, I've got mud all over me. You've heard me do the close many a times. You got this. Now I'm asking Amanda to work outside of her 5%. I'm working outside of my 5%. What could have cost me $20 to pay someone else to fix that sprinkler, I lost a $5,000 sale. At the time, it was $5,000. Today, it's $50,000 to coach with me. But $5,000 to me might as well have been $50,000 back then, 11 years ago. And that was the best lesson. And you all have your 5%. Most of you, it's delegate, motivate, and sell. You delegate to your team. You motivate your business partners, your clients, your team, and then you sell. That's it. Anything outside of that, if you're doing your laundry, if you're doing your grocery shopping, we've got a house manager. Her name is Valentina, and she does the shopping for us and changes the light bulb. Anything that's in the 5%. My wife says, hey, can you take out the garbage? No, it's not on my 5%. Hey, the light bulb's out. It's not on my 5%. Hey, the sprinkler sprung a leak. It's not on my 5%. But now there's someone who can do it. You can afford to get another wife in your house or you know how I mean that. Some of you know how I mean that. Yeah. But you really can. And you forget this. And my challenge to you is, why don't you buy back some of your time, focus on your 5% that matters, so you could really focus on what happiness is, which to me, it's money, meaning, health, and relationships. That's it. It's a simple formula, really.
Well, in 1997, I hired Gary Halbert for, well, I think you both have maybe heard the XXX Halbert tapes. I recorded it just on, a little cassette player, and I for myself. We ended up distributing it as a product. And it was me and Pamela Yellen and Gary Halbert, John Carlton. We're all sitting around in this hotel room because I was up there doing consulting with Bill Phillips at the time, Body for Life author. And basically, we're all making a list of, if we were all millionaires, what are the things that we would have in our lives? And one thing that every person wrote down is a personal trainer. And then I think it was John Carlton that said, you don't need to be a millionaire to hire a personal trainer. You don't need to be a millionaire to hire a lot of these things. You can just, and as a matter of fact, by not doing it, it's one of the best ways to not become a millionaire, because you spend all of your time doing what you just
True
explained.
enough. And you start to feel like an imposter in your industry. You really do, because the content you're going to deliver on that video, you're not delivering at 100% because you don't feel comfortable in your own skin. How you're going to pitch from the stage, you don't feel 100%. Let me tell you, I'm in the fitness industry, and it's been 15 years since I've trained a client. But when I was in that stressful period of my life, 7 to 8 years ago, as we were growing Fit Body Bootcamp, I was 25 pounds fatter. And when I would get up on stage at Fitness Business Summit to sell, it was no surprise. I was selling 5, 6, 7 mastermind coaching clients. Today, 90 to 100, 110 people come on board at a time. The difference is not my pitch. The difference is not anything else other than the fact that I feel authentic, and that transfers to the audience. Now, I don't care what you think. It transfers through video, through your email, through your mannerisms, your eye contact, every single thing, your stage presence. So work on you, man. Work on you first. It's so valuable.
Love it. I want to ask you both about, how do you do, I mean, with what you're doing with the franchises, I mean, how do you deal with the information overload? I mean, you've touched on a lot of it with just even the, what you do in the morning, what you do the night before, but how do you deal with the sheer volume of stuff? And I mean, and everyone here has their own version of that.
Yeah, and we're all leaders, and so you can definitely, I know you've experienced this before, where you become the human bottleneck in your business, right? How often are you the one with the buck in your hands and you don't know what to do with it because you got 10 other bucks that you got to do something with? You're the human bottleneck. And so I quickly learned that I can't be the boss that runs it. I forget who was up here yesterday. I think it was Tony who said, you still have a job. You're a millionaire, but you still have a job. And so I'm a big believer in decentralized command. And all that simply means is I have 2 leaders, 2 VPs, VP of operations, VP of new business, because as we bring on new franchises that I take equity in, the VP of new business will make sure that they are running like Fit Body Bootcamp is running, so that we have congruency and KPIs in place. But the VP of operations and VP of new business are the ones I meet with them 35, 40 minutes every day after my workout. They go and delegate to the team leads. Team leads delegate to their implementers, their department, and then they execute. And the simple formula is this: what is it that we're doing? How's it going to look when it's done? And what is the deadline? That's it. So I just have to talk to my 2 VPs, and they go and delegate. And then when it's done, we'll have a meeting on it. And I might say, well, I don't like how that works, or what if we did it this way? But again, I'm no longer the bottleneck in my business. And when you're the bottleneck, now you start doing time theft from yourself. I'm going to cheat who was it? Todd Durkin. Todd Durkin, are you in here? Todd Durkin. Remember you were saying that at some point, I'm just going to eat a protein bar and skip lunch. Eating engineered food is not food. I don't care if it's a protein bar, it's not food. And you start stealing time from yourself, from your family, from your sanity, from your workouts, from your sleep. Before long, you're having an anxiety attack, an essential tremor, because the human body can't deal with that. So decentralized command. Find leaders, as Tony said, let them fail, create the systems, and delegate to them.
Anything you'd like to add?
I just don't know how to do anything, mostly with tech stuff. So I mean, he makes fun of me all the time. But on my phone, I have 2 apps, and that's all I have.
Do you still have a BlackBerry?
I still have a 7.5-year-old BlackBerry that I use, and you can't do anything on that thing. So I just avoid getting myself in trouble. I build a lot of systems because I'm a very weak person. Like anybody else, I get really tempted by things, and so I just keep myself out of harm's way. Just like, I tell, if somebody comes to me for weight loss, you tell them to keep the crap out of the house. Yeah. It's the simplest thing to do. So keep yourself out of trouble. How can you keep yourself out of trouble? Just go through your day and figure out, what are the things that are causing me the most problems? What are the things that are getting me in the most trouble? And then figure out a way to keep them out of your life. So a lot of not to-dos is a good place to start. Most people's most important list is their not to-do list, not their to-do list.
Mm-hmm. No, what you just said is, it's interesting. I'm a very weak person. we all have areas where I've always liked, and you'll hear me talk about it, I'll ask different people, what's your kryptonite? What is the sort of thing that gets you in the way? Because the best way to get out of a hole is to quit digging it. And people dig a lot of their own holes. And I see that with addiction. A lot of people here that are workaholics, from my conversation with Gabor Mate, there's an understanding of where a lot of this stems from. It's just the things that a person becomes conditioned to that continues to build these dopamine hits. And so like phones is an example. If you have a workaholic problem or tendency or whatever you want to call it, but you're also doing all these other things that you are not strong with, that are these temptations. If you're an alcoholic, you can't keep booze around the house. If you're a food addict, you can't keep a bunch of freaking Snicker bars and shit everywhere. So
Well, I use this analogy, like, if you have young kids bring home this, they draw something, you can't figure out what it is, but they bring it home to you, right? And you give them your approval. And it's like giving them a gold star, right? And so as entrepreneurs, we're getting gold stars from things. And so like the next time you watch a video that says hustle and grind, 16 hours a day, and you're like, oh, I'm going to go and do that because, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to get a gold star from some guy on the internet because he sees me hustling and grinding. But that's totally misaligned with your values. And that's where you get in trouble. But you keep on doing that. Next thing, oh man, you're really working hard. I see you hustling, grinding. That's awesome. And you're getting positive reinforcement from the wrong thing. And so your actions are misaligned from your goals. And that's what causes what I call is like the first world problem, which is, the biggest stress is when we're not aligned in what we're doing. And so if you keep on you say you want this in your life, but your actions are taking you down here, there's always going to be that stress inside you until you align your actions with your goals, which is starting with your values and your vision. And so, what I've seen Bedros do now, like Bedros is even better with his time than I am now. Like he gets done work at 4 o'clock, so he plays with his kids before dinner, has dinner with his family, plays with his kids after dinner, has time to watch one television show and hang out in the hot tub with his wife. And run a business with 600 franchises. That's pretty good.
Let's talk about kind of the mindsets and emotions, how you kind of manage that among yourself, or what kind of do you come into this with on a daily basis, I guess? Are you an affirmation guy? Are you
Yeah, I guess I'm an Enneagram 3. Most people think I'm an Enneagram 7, but I am still driven by success. Affirmations. Yeah, we actually did the love language test with everyone on our staff. Okay. And which is good. We say love your customers more than you love your product, but love your people, love your team even more than you love your customers. And so if that's true, do you know what your people love? And so we didn't know it. So our fans first director said, I want to do a love language test of all of our people. And so we did a test of the entire team. Yes. And it was great. We found out that 90% of our people were words of affirmation was number one. Number one. And it was funny. Our president was words of affirmation was number one, but touch was on the bottom. He goes, guys, tell me you love me, but don't you ever touch me.
Don't touch me.
Funny. Yeah. Don't you ever touch me. But so we learned that. And, again, I remember we ask our team every year, what was their favorite moment of their year? And I will never forget our director of operations. And we hosted huge concerts here, sold out crowds. And he goes, Jesse, it was after our first concert and you put your arm on my shoulder and said that you were proud of me and that I did well tonight. He goes, that was my best moment. And I go, wow. And I was like, it was just something I never really remembered. But, we think as leaders, how do we tell people, that we care about them, recognize them?
Isn't that interesting how knowing that little bit of information, like if that person was words of affirmation and touch, you just like full HD appreciated them. And what you could do that same thing if people are gifts and quality time, or looking at that, I see how that would work.
And you have a database, when we have all of our fans, we have all of our team, when they join our team, even in the interview process, we ask all these questions. So we get to know them when they first show up that first day, we try to create the biggest fan of them. So we map their entire day. When they first come in, we actually have everyone in costume, silly string. We have their favorite breakfast. We have a whole breakfast ceremony, and we map their day. At the end of the day, we have a big cheers. Their name goes up on the wall. And so again, I think if you want to create great fans of your customers, you got to create great fans of your people first. And that's part of our strategy, how we do things. But I don't know if that was the whole question. I think you asked me affirmations. I'm an energy guy. I just try to thrive. I try to do things that give me energy. I was terrible at operations. I'm terrible at finances. I don't touch those things. Details. Right. I stay in my energy. So I created my energy list. What are the things that give me energy? Right. And I realized it was creating, sharing, and growing. Whenever I'm coming with ideas, creating new visions, sharing with our team, leading on a speech, on a podcast, or growing, reading, learning, listening to your podcast, other podcasts, I try to spend most of my day doing that and hire other people to do everything else. So when I go home to my and I go home to my 2 3-year-olds, I have energy. I have energy to be there for them because I'm doing the things that gave me energy.
Because everything you're doing all day is energy. See, if you're thinking we're a lot alike in that, in my world, the ideas are what. That's the thing, is I really like the coming up with what we could do, possibilities, getting all of those things. But I definitely need and am surrounded by who can then make all of that come true, because I'm not the person who can focus enough to do any of it, right? That's the reality. So what's your best piece of advice for, say, a startup, or somebody who's thinking, you know what, I'm gonna take something on here and I want to take this approach?
It's not the most poetic, but I would ask this question, and I'd put it right on top of the front page of your paper and look at it on a regular basis. What makes you different? And what we did is we actually challenged our team, and it's on our website, on our About Us. We wrote all the different things that were different. We're the only all-inclusive ballpark. We have no ads at our ballpark. We have, grandma coaches, 8-year-old coaches. We play in kilts. We wrote all those things. And I think everyone tries to be a little bit better, a little bit faster, a little bit cheaper. What can you be the only at? And when you're the only, you don't have to market. You don't have to do everything else. You're the only because everyone's doing the marketing for you. So what makes you different? What can you be the only? I think for a startup, if you're trying to be a me too, it's hard work. It's a bloody ocean, as the Blue Ocean Strategy.
Right, exactly.
How many of you watch Shark Tank?
All right.
How many of you? Yeah. How long has this been going on now?
This is the Shark Tank. It's been 8 years now.
8 years.
This is the 8th season. Yeah.
Awesome. How long have you, Jay, known Damon?
I don't know, Jay. Has it been 8 years or 10 years or?
It's been right at the start.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really wish you would have dressed up today. Seriously.
Well, the problem is nobody invites me anymore to cocktail parties or social functions, and I got to get use out of my clothes.
Right. That's true. That's true.
He was supposed to dress better than me.
What's this? You built a multi-billion-dollar fashion thing, and you're wearing what's this say?
I'm wearing just casual. Yeah. A little tie.
No, this is good. I like the
multis something.
Yeah. So that is the biggest freaking diamond I've ever seen in someone's ear. That is huge.
Yeah, I'll tell you the story of that one day.
Okay, so first off, thank you both for being here. This is awesome. And how many of you heard the interview that I did with Damon and John? Okay, wasn't that fantastic? Okay, awesome. So let's start with Jay. Since I didn't give you a bio, what do people need to know about you and who you are? You can say whatever you want in under 1 minute.
Okay. I've grown businesses for a living for 40 years. How's that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That is quick. So I've got a few questions for both of you. So you're both well-known and well-respected for your entrepreneurial accomplishments. You both have rather outrageous background stories. What one factor do each of you think more than anything else determined or defined what you each became and why? And how can that same factor benefit everyone in this room? We'll start with you.
I think there was a couple of factors. There was 2 factors I remember, but the main one I think was that when my parents got divorced and I was 10 years old, I was actually in Catholic school. And I remember acting up as a kid going, you know what, if I act up, my father will come back, because this is the sensibility of a child, right? My father will come back, my parents will get back together because my grades are bad. So I remember, like the last test in school, the nuns said to my mother, listen, you know what, if Damon, we understand Damon's acting up and we would normally have to leave him back, but we're gonna give him one last chance. So that night before the test, I went out and played basketball with my friends. I did everything I could to not complete the test. I go in the next day, I do the test, and the test comes back and I get like a 30 on the test. And I was very pleased with that. My mother comes into school and the nun says, you know what? We're not going to leave him back because we understand he's acting out because of what's going on in his life. And my mother said, no, you're going to leave him back. So number one, I got left back. Second of all, there was public school up the block where I felt like, they just ate their young and crawled on all fours up there. They were just nasty people, right? And my mother said, and I'm taking you out of this Catholic cushy school where you have all your buddies you've been in since the first grade, and you're going to go to public school. And I said, no way in the world is that going to happen. Then she said, and you're also not going to go out the entire summer. I said, she works 3 jobs. How the hell can she watch over me? No way. My mother goes and gets a 4th job, hires a babysitter who watches me, takes me out of that school, and I end up back in the 7th grade in the public school with the kids stealing my sneakers every day. I realized at that point that I was responsible for my own actions, and many of our kids don't realize that, and even my daughters have a challenge with that up until 20 years old, and I try not to baby them. But at that point, I realized that nobody's going to save me, and I think that was very instrumental at a very early age of my life.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. What about you, sir?
Probably the most, I guess, defining is that I had always a hopeless curiosity and an outrageous fascination for what, why, how people were doing things. And I was a business transient. I have no education. I got started at 18 and 2 kids at 20. And I jumped around, but not from job to job, industry to industry. And I would realize how totally different each industry was and the way they thought and their actions. And I have always had an obsessive desire to learn how many different ways different businesses, but more importantly, different industries think, act, strategy, access vehicle, business model. And I think that's probably made a bigger difference in defining my, if you want to talk about not just success, but the ability to add a lot of dimension to people.
So let's talk about your clothing company, which is Fearless.
Yes.
So is it fearless or fear? I mean, it could be said both, but what do you mean by fearless?
So the brand Fearless is fearless because I agree. Fear is there. Everyone has fear. But does it control you? If it's controlling you, if it's controlling your decisions, if it's preventing you from taking risks or going after what you want or trying something new, that's where it's not productive. So if you're fearless, you're going to try things without worrying about the outcome. How bad? Unfortunately in society right now, I think people are so concerned about how they're going to be perceived or how it would look if they fail. Who cares? Like if you really break it down, and for me, again, this happened to me, it was one of my first competitions where I was like, what if I don't go out and win? And it was like making me so nervous going into this silly competition, which again, nobody cares. Yeah. I mean, people are my fans, family, they're cheering me on. Good for you, you're doing amazing, go have fun. I wasn't having fun. Well, why? Because I was worried, what if I don't win? And I thought, if I'm last place, are my kids still gonna love me? Are my friends gonna never wanna hang out with me? Is my family not gonna? No. So what am I afraid of? And it was like this light bulb, duh. Yeah. So why am I afraid of this? And that really helped propel. So it, again, parlayed into so many things I did. If you literally sit and break down, and I mean write down, like if there's something that you're wanting to do, but you're being held back, you're holding yourself back, take some time to write. Because it doesn't work just with the thoughts. Yeah, I know this personally because it's when I've done this and started practicing it, it wasn't the same. When you write it down, you start looking at your list and you're like,
do you mean handwrite it or you mean type it? Or
anywhere where you're actually putting it on paper and not just thinking. And you're worried about something that is pretty dumb. So again, you're gonna start a business. What if you fail? What if you don't?
Yeah.
And do you want to live the rest of your life going, well, what if? I had this great idea, but I never pursued it. Someone else is going to.
Right.
Someone else is after that.
Yeah.
So why can't it be you?
Yeah.
So just, again, do the research, have the proper steps to implement whatever it is you're wanting to do, but take the fear out of it. And it goes back to believing that you can succeed, believing that you deserve and you're worthy of that success. So once I started doing that, everything again was way more fun. The pressure is off. I realized nobody cares if I'm Miss Olympia or not. They really don't.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Did you really know who the winners were of Miss Olympia? No. But we met and it was great. And then you learned about some of my stuff. You're like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But again, if I would have never won, we could still be here at this moment having this conversation.
Exactly.
But just, I feel like it paralyzes so many people from pursuing stuff. And I did not want to have that life. I did not want my life to be dictated by fear.
I love it. No, that's really valuable. When early on in my life, I heard this saying that whatever you fear and don't face controls you. Whatever you fear and you face, you can either control it or at least take steps to get better at it.
Yes.
Because sometimes it will take, some things are just not easy. Some things take a long time. But the biggest thing is, it's a Wayne Gretzky quote, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So.
And once you do it too, ask anyone who's really faced a fear head on, the gratification afterwards, like the win and the victory is so much sweeter because you were so afraid, but you did it anyways. And then it's like, wow, okay. And then it propels you to feel like you can do anything. So it's those little steps, whether it's, oh my gosh, I'm gonna say hi to this person that scares me, intimidates, that I like, that I think is great looking, like something as simple as a hi and they say hi back, wow, okay, now your confidence is boosted to go do the next thing. But just do it. What do you have to lose?
So you've applied your industrial engineering background and innovative thinking in your business ventures. How did this mindset help you navigate your cancer diagnosis and treatment?
Yeah, so as it relates to, let's just back up for a second if we can go right to the beginning. So I was in Italy with my family, it was July, and I started turning yellow. I didn't know what was going on. I came back to the States. I was having dinner with Tim Larkin in Vegas, and he goes, dude, your eyes are yellow. What's going on? This was the beginning of August, and I just was going about my life. August 13th, I went to a clinic in Dallas where I live with my family, and as soon as I walked into the clinic, the guy goes, you need to go to the emergency room right now. So I went to a hospital emergency room. I'm sure many of you have had that experience. I never had it in my entire life. And was completely yellow and delirious. My bilirubin, for those that know what it means, had skyrocketed because a tumor closed off my liver biliary tube from emptying. The tumor was at the head of the pancreas. So I waited for 7.5 hours in excruciating pain, bright yellow. And while I was waiting, I grabbed one of the surgeons in the emergency room. I said, can you tell me what the hell's wrong with me? He goes, sir, wait your turn. You have pancreatic cancer. And I proceeded to wait like 4 more hours after that. So that's where this started. But 3 days later, when they did the surgery to put a stent to open up the biliary tube, the next morning I wake up at 9 a.m. It's a Friday morning. It's August 18th. And there was 4 doctors around me. There was this nice Indian woman who had a chemo port in her hand, and there was a surgeon, and there was a GI surgeon, and there was another chemo doctor. And they said, we got to bring you in immediately. We got to put a chemo port in. We got to start chemo immediately. And they're all talking at the same time. And it's 9 a.m. I'm delirious from the surgery. And I said, can I get the hell out of here? And they're like, no, you can't leave. I said, no, I got to get out of here. And my friend's with me. He's on my left. And he goes, Rick, just listen to your doctor. Get the damn chemo port, whatever. And then one of the doctors said something really interesting. He said, 2 and 2. I said, what's 2 and 2? He said, you have inoperable pancreatic cancer. You have a 2% chance of living 2 years. And imagine you hearing that, right? So my wife's there. She's crying. Anyway, long story short, I said, no, I got to get the hell out of here. That was my initial instinct, was to get out of hospital prison, which took 6 hours. And then the first call I made, ironically, I think he's in this room. Is Vern Harnish in the room? There he is. I called him up and I said, Vern, I got pancreatic cancer. What do I do? He goes, immediately go to the nearest clinic you can find. They get 100 grams of vitamin C. So I traveled around Dallas and I found a place, and they're like, our limit is 10 grams of vitamin C for the first time. I said, I got pancreatic cancer, I need 100. And she goes, looks over her shoulder, she goes, okay. And I did 100 grams of vitamin C for every day for I don't even know how long. And then Vern got me to the Reardon Clinic in Wichita, Kansas, and that started the journey. But real interesting beginning, that's how it started. So using industrial engineering, I think what might help people is, can I just show a couple of
Yeah, show slides.
So I just have 4 slides. So when I was 13, let me just go back even further. I have a saying that the size of your unhealthy drive in life is inversely proportional to the depth of your trauma as a child. And I had an incredibly traumatic childhood. And I'm incredibly driven, so when I read some of the things I've been doing to combat the cancer, it'll translate. But just to tell you a little bit about my past and get to this photo here. When I was conceived, I was the 7th of 10 kids that my mom had. My mom found out that my 3-year-old brother, Frankie, had kidney cancer. So she was going back and forth to cancer treatment. He died when I was a baby, and my mother had a massive nervous breakdown and never recovered. Then when I was 11, my dad announces to the family that he had incurable cancer, was given 6 weeks to live. He ended up living until I was 13. So when my dad died, my mother had her second nervous breakdown, and I lost both my parents when I was 13. But all that trauma as a kid, because I had all the initials, I don't know if they're called ADHD and all that as a kid, but I had a brutal childhood because my mother's like, why are you such a pain in the ass? Like, why did God take Frankie and not you? And shit like that as a kid, I heard. So I had to fight for my life as a little kid. Yeah. So now I'm showing you the picture up here because when my dad told the family, he gathered all the kids around the table when I was 11, as I said, and said, hey, I've got incurable terminal cancer. I had to have that same conversation with my kids. This picture's 2 years old. So my kids are now 9, 11, 13, and 15. And my 13-year-old said, Dad, I'm behind you 100% for this fight. And I said, just give me till the end of the year. I didn't realize I was saying, give me till the Joe Polish event to beat this thing. So I think it would be helpful just how my brain approached it. Can I just read the list of stuff I've done?
Oh, yeah.
So I took a sabbatical from my company. And Joe said, just read some of the things you've been doing. So you guys are gonna be dizzy. I didn't do all of these every day, but I did a lot of this stuff. So again, took a break from the business, and then just focused on cancer. You said, according to Jeff Hayes, when you have a terminal disease, what's the saying you say about health? A man that's healthy has 1,000 goals.
Yeah. He who does not has only one.
Say it again.
He or she who has their health has 1,000 dreams. He or she who has 1,000 dreams. He or she that does not has only one, which is to get it all back, to get their health back. Because you lose your health, you lose everything.
So think about that as you hear the list. Partial list of items that I've done the last 112 days. Vern Harnish, daily calls at the beginning. He's the chairman of the board of the Reardon Clinic in Kansas. Super high dose vitamin C infusions every day, high dose curcumin, 2 sweat lodge sessions, 20 hot saunas. I lean heavily on guidance from my wife, Melissa, who's an absolute rock, and Morgan, my right hand at work. Lean heavily on very close friends who dropped everything to help. I was open to love and support in a way that I've never been before. Like, just being open to people being so loving and giving was unbelievable. EBOO, which is a blood filtering and ozone therapy for your entire blood supply. Did this 10 times. Weekly Catholic church services, every other week confession. I read 5 books on how to cure cancer without chemotherapy. Spoke to 1 witch doctor. Jeff Smith, thank you for that reconnecting us. Jeff Smith had 1% chance of living 30 days. That was 5 years
Yeah,
ago.
he had stage 4 lung cancer, and then he came and stayed with me, and he's, cancer-free. And I got him a link so he could watch us. He's watching us right now.
Yep. Hey, Jeff, thank you, brother. Countless difficult conversations with well-meaning friends and family about when are you starting chemotherapy. 4 members of my immediate family, not 1, 4, died right after getting chemotherapy. I'm terrified of chemotherapy. Mark Tarbell, daily delivery of food while I was at the clinic in Phoenix the last 10 weeks. Thank you, Mark. Patrick and Lori Gentempo praying for me. Hillary Hamilton, part of Joe Dispenza's group, praying for me many times. All the resources of Entrepreneurs Organization, all the resources of YPO, Super Secret Weapon, AI, Josh Pelliser from Moonshot Labs, and Peter. Thank you.
Josh is standing in the back, and Peter's in the back, yep. They fed everything into AI and got as much research as they could about every possible solution to this.
Hyperthermia, heating your body to 108 degrees. I did that 8 times. Dr. Janice Johnston, who's Dave Berg's wife, and Dave Berg. I've been staying at his house while in Phoenix. Unbelievable guy. He owns Redirect Health. If you're not using their health plans, you're crazy. They've been navigating all the health needs that I've had. Thank you, Dave. And his wife's been immense. I knew nothing about the medical system. Countless conversations with stage 4 deathbed survivors. Countless conversations with naturopaths. Doing water experiments. I don't know if you saw, but you write on a glass of water, love, health, healing, and the water changes crystalline form. So I went to bed every night writing words of affirmation on my body, because I'm 80% water, and so are you. By the way, it just made me think of something. When the doctor said I had a 2% chance of living 2 years, I looked him in the eye with a big smile on my face. Everybody in this room is in the 1% club. And I'm thinking, holy shit, I got 200% better chance of my life. That is awesome. Let me just finish reading this. A Rife frequency machine. I slept with it every night when I was home. Special homeopathic potions. I hired an astrologer. Did a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation. Being open.
You probably never would have done any of this stuff prior to that.
None of it. I'm only halfway through. My wife has this powerful rosary group. They prayed for me every day. They were amazing women. Being open to the divine and the miraculous, just sitting here is divine and miraculous, if you think about it. This whole thing has been divinely orchestrated. Crazy, heavy weightlifting routines with Tom Incledon, and he's like, if you're not building muscle cells, you're building cancer cells. Which one would you choose? So let me just go forward on this. This is me, a 90-day transformation. I lost 55 of these guys. Look at that. That's my 60th birthday, October 26, 1963, I was born. And that was me with Barrett Ursick. Can you see, we can see it down here. I'm just gonna show you one last slide, and then you could ask me questions. This really influenced me. Michael J. Fox has been alive with a terminal disease for a long time. You must become an expert in your diagnosis. It is your responsibility to know more about your disease than the medical professionals treating you. It's shocking to me. I'm sitting asking my oncologist questions, and I'm saying, dude, how the hell do you not know the answer to that question? That's a really basic question. And all they know is their little narrow thing. It's just shocking to me. Let me just finish, and then you could ask questions. Brian Cooper, a cancer coach, leveraging all the resources of the Gathering at Titans group that I first led as chairman in 2004, an amazing group of entrepreneurs. Phil Tyrone and his prayer warriors, immense medical support from Cherie. Thank you, Cherie, you've done a lot for me. Special mineral water, I only drank this mineral water the whole time. 6 different radiologist appointments. The last 2, by the way, told me that you have stage 4 and you're a goner, basically, is what they told me. That was only in the last month. I spoke to 9 different pancreatic cancer surgeons and got 9 different opinions. Not one of them said, I don't think you need surgery, sir. Meaning at some point I want to do it. I was willing to speak to anyone that my intuition said to speak to. Ionic foot baths, 3 different exorcisms, believe it or not. Coaching with a shaman. Jennifer Hoodie, weekly healing sessions. She's an angel. Thank you, Jennifer. I was read my last rites twice. I did an anointing of the sick twice, once with the world famous Bishop Strickland, who was recently fired by the Pope 2 weeks ago. I had nothing to do with that. Totally embrace the terrain theory of medicine. If you change the terrain, you change the disease. I don't think the cancer knows who the hell it took over. Totally embrace that. Water fasting, 48 hours at a time. Intermittent fasting, 9 weeks at Tom Incledon's Causenta here in Phoenix. Thank you, Joe, for that. Met 2 times with Romanian healing monks. Did 5 separate healing sessions with Joe Dispenza's group. Countless vitamins. You know, there's 2 more pages. I'm not even going to read anymore. But the one last comment is, so last week I had to get an operation to put in a new liver stent. And I was a lot of pressure because I would be on your stage. They took 6 biopsies, and all 6 came back benign last week. Thank you.
Wow. Wow.
But thank you. Thank you. But here's the biggest comment of all. Jeff Smith, if you're watching, he told me, he goes, when you do all this crap and you're exhausted from it and you're only going home on the weekends to see your family, people are going to say, it was probably a misdiagnosis. And that's what I'm starting to hear.
In chapter 11 of your book, you talk about the most important habit of all. What is it and how do we apply it?
So the most important habit of all is paradoxically not really a habit at all. It's willpower. It's what I call cultivating courage. So willpower is not inherently not a habit, right? A habit is automated. It's the things we don't have to think about. It's automated. Willpower inherently demands the will. It demands consciousness. So that is the most important habit, because no matter what you are trying to do, no matter what changes you're going to make, you'll get to a point where the behavior is automated, but in order to attain that next level of evolution, you now once have to get out of what's automated. You have to overload the self. So great athletes talk about this all the time. Stephen Curry, one of the greatest basketball player, talks about how he overloads in his training, because at that point, and he's a master at his craft, right? But he's attained mastery. To evolve, he has to go to places he's never been before. And overloading inherently means using the will. So that is the most important, because once you learn how to, as I like to say, suffer well, once you learn how to suffer well, you can do anything. I mean, and that's the core thing we seek, right? I mean, if you use whatever words you want, happiness, fulfillment, bliss, inner peace, whatever lingo you want to use, ultimately at the core of why we do anything is that, right? And if you can embrace the suffering, if you can embrace that demand of the will, you can find bliss in the entire human journey, whether it's dark or whether it's light. And there's multiple, like, simple ways. I mean, cold tubs are a great way to cultivate that, and everybody knows cold tubs. Do darkness therapy. Lock yourself in a dark room for 20 minutes a day. You know, that will teach you something about yourself that you haven't gone. And if you want to go deeper, go for 7 days, go for 10.
I was hoping we could do that with Michael Fishman. Just lock his ass up in any cold day for any amount of time. Yeah, he will come out of there as like, he'll have a machete and he'll be out there anyway.
So the idea is, whether it's cold tubs or will, is like, or darkness, is do something on a regular basis where one part of you wants to quit and the other wants to fight. The other wants to keep fighting. You know, the Greek philosopher Heraclitus says, war is the father of all. And I don't just mean, I think he was using it to apply to war, like wars between nations, but apply it to that inner war. When you go to war with yourself, you will breed something new will birth from that. And what you will find is that battle, that war is the most important habit.
Okay, I hope you found that video awesome and useful. So if you want to get a free copy of my book, I want you to click here. And if you want to watch some more videos that'll be useful and awesome, click here. Go ahead. They're over here. Do it now. Come on. Thank you. Watch them.